So one thing I've been doing with my YouTube channel here over the past several months is I've been uploading a lot of live music shorts. I didn't really start doing it for any one particular reason. I mean, I was just at some pretty good shows, numerous times here over the summer, and I thought it would actually be kind of cool to share a little bit of that. And as it turns out, these live music shorts are a little bit of a hit. I mean, nothing really too outrageous. I don't have anything there running away with like millions or billions of views or anything like that. But it definitely does seem like people like to watch them. It looks like there have been a few people who have subscribed to the channel specifically because of them. So I've been meaning to talk a little bit more about music on the podcast from time to time. Maybe even on a weekly basis, trying to make a point of it. I've just kind of been hunting and fishing around for exactly the right topic to talk about. And something just kind of jumped out at me today when I was in the gym. There's this song that keeps coming over the loudspeakers of the gym. It's a song by the Sick Puppies, kind of like this little, I don't know really how to describe them, almost like a little Seether knockoff type band. They've had a few kind of songs that flirted with being hits. A few of them pretty good. I mean, like for example, All the Same by the Sick Puppies is a fantastic song about just like a bitter, almost toxic love, with a tumultuous person. You're Going Down. I think that actually might have made it into some promotional videos for Street Fighter 4. But this song that keeps coming over the loudspeakers at this gym, I guess it's just on a playlist somewhere. They keep coming up with this song called Gunfight. And it's not really all that complicated a song. The chorus is like, don't bring a gun, the chorus is, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, you'll lose. Like over and over and over again. And then all of these, it's got all these different verses. It's got one talking about, Kevin Bacon trying to sue somebody that defrauded him and apparently not winning, something I actually don't recall ever hearing about, and I might look into that story. But one talking about, senators and congressmen in the states that went and, bailed out all of their rich financial friends instead of, the American people. But the last verse of the song, Gunfight, really jumped out at me, when I finally actually took a second to actually listen to it the other day. And they talk about the Tianenmen Square massacre all the way back in the 1980s. And so the verse says, if I can remember correctly, here's a little story about Tiananmen Square. The people rose up and said, life ain't fair. Now they're sweating in a shop making iPhones thin. If you step in front of tanks, the tanks are going to win. Now, this is really not a band that's known for being, really profound or engaged or anything of the sort. And I think it's one of those songs that kind of reminds you that, I mean, if you're not one of those bands that's good at being really profound and engaged in, like actual, global topics, don't try to be. Because I'm not really entirely sure exactly what it was that they intended with a verse like that, but it actually kind of sounds like they're a bunch of people that grew up in probably some soft, middle-class suburb in the United States, growing up safe and secure their whole lives, looking back at people that were, basically brutalized by their government, by like 30, 40 years ago, and laughing at them for even having tried in the first place. That is definitely not a great look, at least I would say. And so for their specific purpose when they wrote this song, it would have been about 30 years ago for them. I looked this up, and this song was written in 2013. And apparently I didn't hear this song anywhere for about 9 years. And so in my view, I would kind of treat this song, I would kind of put it into the same category of, say, songs like, say, Feed the Machine by Nickelback. And songs like that, songs that are, that are really, I would almost call them, I would call them pseudo-political cringe. But at least when Nickelback writes these songs, and they've kind of done them a few times over the years, never really done them well. I mean, I like Nickelback a lot, but of the things that I like Nickelback for, songs like, songs like If Everyone Cared, or, once again, Feed the Machine, they are definitely not what I pick up a Nickelback CD for. But at least when Nickelback tries to be relevant, they're not pointing their fingers 30 years in history at a bunch of people that were, that were willing to die to democratize their country, and basically laughing at them for being a bunch of losers and kind of laughing at them for having even tried. That is a little bit too far. A little bit further than I would suggest that they should go. I guess what I would say is that there's a massive difference, between basically being, really at the core of it, really kind of unserious about the topic, and just being obnoxious. I mean, on one hand, that does seem like a little bit of a silly complaint, because really, I mean, who really doesn't expect a rock band to, not be a little bit obnoxious? As a matter of fact, I was listening to a podcast with Clayton Bellamy a few weeks ago, and it was kind of one of the things that he talked about is that there are not very many real rock stars out in the world anymore, because too many rock musicians they're afraid to be obnoxious, and so these guys seems like maybe they're not too afraid of that. I mean, good on them. I mean, maybe in one respect. I mean, this song was written in 2013. I think that was a few years before anybody was out there was really worried about about cancel culture and things like that. But I still kind of feel like a billion people, living under the yoke of a police state is not a laughing matter. And of all the different things that you might say about the Tiananmen Square protests all the way back in the day, is that, I mean, here's something that people should honestly know about it, and let's talk about this for a second. But a lot of the things that happened in Tiananmen Square, a lot of the things that we know about it and that we've seen about it, had a lot to do with the media being present. And I think it should be acknowledged that a lot of the people that were there, protesting as activists there that day, they were well aware of that. Kind of comes to mind for me is a little snippet from a book called Red China Blues by Jan Wong. So Jan Wong, she's a Canadian journalist. She has written for most of her career for the Globe and Mail. And at one point of her life, she was a avowed Maoist. She got the opportunity to go over as a journalist to communist China, and she was excited to go. She thought this was going to be great. I'm going to go get go get in touch with my cultural roots, go get in touch with my Maoist political roots. And basically what she found over there was that Chinese communism was kind of rotten to the core. And she just happened to be there when the massacre happened. And so there's this part in the book where she talks about being there and watching some of the people. And the behavior of a lot of these protesters, was markedly different when they knew the cameras on them, when they kind of felt like the cameras weren't on them. And in particular, she remembers watching, one young man that was there, and he had this flag with him, this, free China, democratized China, banner, whatever you want to call it, whatever was on it. I don't remember exactly the message that was on this banner. But she said that when he could see that a camera was pointed at him, he was sitting on top of a bus with this banner, and when he could see that a camera was pointed at him, he would jump up on top of this bus, and he would wave that flag furiously back and forth with both hands, to show the world how passionate he was about democratizing China. But then as soon as the cameras were gone, he would sit back down on this bus and he would smoke a cigarette. So they were very much aware of the way that they would be perceived, when the eyes of the world were on them and when they weren't. But there is one thing that nobody can deny about the Tiananmen Square massacre and everything that happened there, was that even if they might not have taken the whole thing as solemnly serious, as a lot of people might look back and think, there is one thing that we can't deny, and that is that they were willing to die for it. And I kind of feel like one thing that you absolutely should not do is that if people are willing to die to free 1 billion people, people are willing to stand in front of a tank and hold their hand up and try to make that and make those tanks stop, and risk being run over, if they're willing to be shot and killed, by their own government in order to free 1 billion people. Well, I think the one thing that you probably shouldn't do, is to sit nice and comfortable in suburban America 30 years later, point your finger back through history and laugh at them. That's not a good look at all.